inclusive dates. So as your AGR order develops and as you know you're going to have an actual AGR report date, those are the dates that get put up on the top of that 92. It's not an exact science. We understand that you might remain AGR and have follow-on orders. That's okay. Just give us what you have on your initial order. Just gives us a time of a frame time so that we can start to count that five-year USERRA clock. And then you're going to let us know a little bit about the leave that you plan on using. You all familiar with that? This is no different than when you go on AT or an MPA order or something like that. You just let us know, if applicable, that you're going to go ahead and use some paid leave. The one that you don't even have to fill that part of the format if you don't want to, but you absolutely positively have to fill out the comp time. On the HRO Form 92 that your HR remotes have, there's an asterisk next to that. Comp time must be used first, and it's in bold. That is because that is the one time card code that the civilian pay system will not accept once we process your absent US, if that's what you choose. It will reject, and then unfortunately it'll come unraveled, and you'll have someone like Sergeant DeGia reaching out to you and telling you you now have non-pay hours. But what we can do is if you fill out on that form that you're going to use some comp time, we just simply take the effective date of your AGR order and we slide it to the right to accommodate that comp time. Then nothing rejects, and you get to use your comp time and get paid for it, no problem. It is fully sanctioned by NGB, but it is, we call it a workaround. So if you're going to use some comp time, please use it first. Let us know that on the form. Mr. Mulhorn, who processes all the absent US actions and the return of duties, will see that, and he will adjust to the next full day so that you are going to get what you asked for, which is to go ahead and use that comp time. Why is it so very important that you be mindful of your comp time and if you're going to use it first? There's a shelf life. Just like time off awards, which are fully sanctioned by law, comp time, while it's not addressed in the Code of Federal Regulations that as far as being allowed to be used, which you can, I said that wrong, but here's how it is. The CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations, gives a list of what a paid leave you're allowed to be in while you're on a military order to avoid what's called dual compensation. Comp time is silent, but it is allowed. DFAS will not change their civilian pay system to allow that comp time, so we have that workaround in place. Besides all of that, you need to know that your comp time and your time off awards have a shelf life, which is 26 pay periods from when it was posted to your leave and earnings statement. So just be mindful of that. Don't forfeit something that's rightfully yours and valued as cash. Fair enough. So go ahead and make sure that that's in there. Or annotate on your HRO Form 92. The next question, I believe, is do you have a TSP loan? Civilian TSP loan. We do not need to know if you have a military TSP loan. But if you have a TSP loan on your civilian side, whether it's residential or all-purpose, or other general, whatever they're calling those nowadays, just give me a yes or no. It's personal, it's private, it's nobody's business but your own. However, you need to let us know in the HRO, because we in the HRO have to do a TSP Form 41 on your behalf, and we fax it to TSP's Finance Center in Birmingham, Alabama, letting them know that you are in a non-pay status for military purposes. They call it a military furlough. That prevents automatic mailings, and that prevents an automatic cash out or payout of your TSP loan where they will treat it like it was an early withdrawal. You don't want that. 59.5 is the magic age. You're below that, and you're going to get penalized. It can be undone, but we can prevent all of that if you simply give us a yes on the TSP, the HRO Form 92, so we can get that TSP Form 41 done on your behalf. You also have to do one when you do your return to duty. In the event you go AGR or your MPA order, whatever it is, and you request to restore, where you send an email to Missy, or you do that nice little form that she's created, Mr. Mulhorn gets that. He does your return duty SF50, and then he does a TSP Form 41. He completes that and sends it to TSP and lets them know that you're back. So you need to let us know simply yes or no. The next section of the HRO Form 92 is health benefits. Those options are specific to you. Do you even have health benefits? Because the first one is I don't have health benefits, right? Then the next one is I want to accrue a debt or pay DFAS directly. Then there's one where you elect for DOD to cover the cost of your health benefits, and that is only specific to post 9/11. You have to be on an approved contingency, not just, if the word contingency is on your orders, that's not approved. It has to be Executive Order 13223. There's a few other ones. You have to make sure that option C is specific to the authority in which you've been called to duty. You guys have been doing this for a long time. There's typically no errors when it comes to you when you get called to duty and you fill out your form. AR does not allow you to choose option C. Okay? Title 10 NPA orders or the Title 32, I think you guys still have some ADOS and things like that, some acronyms. If it is not on a very specific order, authority, you don't get to choose option C. That is typically linked to deployments. And then you can also elect to pay DFAS directly in lieu of accruing a debt, or you can, the very last option, I think it's option E, is that you elect that we in the HRO turn your health benefits off, and then you are subject to an automatic reinstatement upon your return to duty. You've all been doing this for quite some time. This isn't new. The biggest thing that we see is that you will choose option E to turn your health benefits off, and you've been mobilized under Executive Authority 13223. I think we're now at inherent resolve. So I think we're at J, or India, I think it is. You choose option E, we turn your health benefits off in the HRO. You request to restore, and you do that checklist that your HR remote has created, and you have health benefit options with that. And you elect to delay the automatic reinstatement, but the required HRO Form 92-1, the extension of the HRO Form 92 is not included. We cannot delay the automatic reinstatement of your health benefits without that form. That form is created by DOD, not Ms. Lentz. If you chose option E on the HRO Form 92, you are subject to the automatic restoration of your health benefits unless you meet the criteria to delay it, and then with that we need the HRO Form 92-1. Otherwise, I will restore your health benefits. But we will make attempts to talk to you or reach out to you and say, hey, I think you forgot something, or maybe you're just not eligible for it. But we usually hash that out with you individually through the HR remotes. Any questions about the health benefits before I go on? But that's the big one.
The health benefit access changed over from ABC to something else in the last 2 months. What was the statewide or local thing to get that word out? That was
So ABCC, who is contracted through National Guard Bureau to handle all the benefit elections outside of option E of the HRO Form 92, you want to go in and turn your health benefits off because you qualify for early TRICARE, and then you're eligible for TAMP on the back end of, say, a mobilization, and you just want to go ahead and take advantage of the early TRICARE and turn your health benefits off, which then you would choose A, I don't have health benefits on the 92. You can do that. You can do that through ABCC's website, now called GRB Platform. Used to be called eBiz. That is on GKO. We made sure that GKO is updated so that you can see it, because we have an internal SharePoint called PKO, but Eric couldn't get to it. It was only Army. So what we put on PKO, we put on GKO. They are to look identical. We also have brought with us informational sheets that have been up in your HR remotes office for quite some time, and we try to replenish your stash as we can, and we brought them. It is a two-sided sheet that all of your new employees get when they go through orientation here with your HR remote, that not only provides the GRB platform link, but every link you could possibly think of to get to any web-based applications that empowers you as a federal employee to gain access to your record. That was a good question. Thank you. You're on fire today. You're doing great.
To be eligible for the FEHB in retirement. You have to have 5 years, you have to be enrolled in the system, in the program for 5 years prior to retirement, or 5 years cumulative throughout your career. It's the last 5 years, correct?
Question for the retirement specialist.
It's 5 straight years prior to retirement, so it
Okay.
can't be a year back here, 2 years here,
Right,
a year
right.
there.
Okay.
It's from the date that you're gonna retire, 5 years previous to that entire 5 years.
And the proof of you being covered by TRICARE is on you.
Yes.
Some of the feedback we get from ABCC is you need to prove that you did in fact have TRICARE at the time you said you did, that helped piece that 5-year together.
Okay, so TRICARE counts for that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And all you would need.
So it doesn't matter if you're absent U.S. the last 3 months prior to your.
Correct, so if you're gonna retire on January 1st, 5 years prior to that, you need to have that coverage. And if TRICARE was 3 months here, 6 months here while you were on those deployments, as long as you didn't have a break in your federal health benefits, either between FEHB and TRICARE, as long as it was 5 consecutive years prior to retirement, it doesn't matter whether it was TRICARE, FEHB, you could have ping-ponged back and forth the entire time.
Oh, great.
And as
Okay.
long as you can show that enrollment proof, then you're good.
Okay, so selecting option E doesn't change anything as long as in the last 5 years.
Correct, but like I
Correct.
said, the onus is on you to prove that you did in fact have a TRICARE.
Okay.
I haven't seen that too often, but we
Yeah.
do. I see the emails that ABCC sends to Ms. Hunsberger and Ms. Gesper, and I've seen that at least once or twice.
Yes.
Not a lot, but enough.
Yep.
Enough
So
to make it
if that's
mentionable.
something you plan on, then I would also say, maybe save, I know you get those copies of those enrollment forms and when you're enrolling. Just keep copies of those with everything else that you're keeping copies of, just in case. Better to have it than trying to dig for it on the fly when ABCC is saying, the last minute.
Thank you.
Good deal.
I got a question, same thing.
Sure.
Kind of related. I was HER for 4 years, my last year I was a technician. Does that still cover the same process?
I'm sorry, what?
If I was HER the last 5 years, say 5 years, I was HER 4 those years with TRICARE, and my last year decided to go back into the technician service. Is that still 5 years for coverage?
Did you choose to go absent U.S. where you stayed live in our system and then you elected to restore? And then you were subject to the automatic restoration of your health benefits?
Then
I would say yes.
Then yes.
Yep. The last part of the HRO QandA is simply the FEGLI, the Federal Employee Group Life Insurance. A lot of folks don't know that they have that. And what I would recommend, just like I did at the town hall the last time I was here, is go look at your leave and earnings statement, go into your EOPF and look at your SF50s, go into My Biz or My Workplace and look at your employees' 50s. And there's a block on there that lets you know what your FEGLI code is. And if you are paying for FEGLI and you are covered by it, it is a deduction on your leave and earnings statement that is FEGLI. It's verbatim. So because it's not uncommon for Mr. Mulhorn to get an HRO Form 92 in, you choose option A, which is I don't have FEGLI, and you really do, and you really are paying for it. You don't go into My Pay, you don't go into My Biz and look at your 50s and look to see what you're paying for. It might not be a lot, so you don't notice it, but if you have deduction FEGLI on your leave and earnings statement, you are paying for FEGLI coverage. So go ahead and look at that.
Is that the one that allows it'll be paid for the first 12 months?
Correct. So the first option is I don't have it. The second option is that the government will make the contribution and keep you covered for 12 consecutive months, at which time then Mr. Mulhorn will go in and cut an SF50 to turn it off because you've been in a non-pay for 12 months. And then the third option is you would like the government to cover the first 12 months of your FEGLI coverage, and then you would be responsible for the follow-on of additional 12 months, and then it would get turned off. We don't typically have too many people that choose it. I can count one that we've ever had that chose option C on FEGLI that remained beyond the 24 months. Okay? So that is in a nutshell. But what I can tell you is there's going to be TSP. You need to go to tsp.gov or go to ABCC's website. They have just recently hung some significant changes to TSP's program as it pertains to withdrawals that Ms. Hunsberger now has to kind of read and digest and get a good handle on. So at the time of retirement brief, we give you good information. But more importantly, they've changed, and I brought a few of them with me. The TSP fact sheets, the green header, that's, information for federal employees returning from military service, because they had to include information specific to blended retirement. Because now what we have to do is read this fact sheet and digest it and modify our mobilization and demobilization briefings to accommodate blended retirement. Because what we used to put out is correct unless you are enrolled in the blended retirement system. So, more to follow on that. But I did push those fact sheets out to your HR remotes, all three wings. And we're gonna, I believe, I had asked Mr. Titzel to get that hung on GKO so that you can go ahead and look at that now and get ahead of it. But there are significant changes to TSP coming along. Some of them this year and some of them October of next year, that will impact anyone that's hired after October of 2020. They're changing the automatic enrollment for any new hires from 3% to 5%. And they're kind of relaxing some of the rules on withdrawals and things like that. So you want to go ahead and go look at tsp.gov, and ABCC's website has it right there, changes to TSP, and you can pull the fact sheets down at your leisure. Any other questions?
So with the appraisal system going from 3 to 5, the TPR still only reads, it's 135 now, right?
Correct. Well, the TPR 430 is no longer in effect.
Okay.
And it's the DODI and the CNGBI.
Okay.
They're all, the CNGBI is not hung out there yet because we had to negotiate it locally before we can put it out to the masses, but the DODI 1400.25, volume 430 and 431 will get you all you need to know about the appraisal system and the new changes to DOD's, changes to going from PAA to DP MAP. Don't call it PAA anymore, call it DP MAP. We all lived through the conversion, got that, but now your appraisals, I just got the report from Mr. Titzel on your wing and how you stand. I haven't looked at it yet, but what I am getting back, as the lists are getting pushed out to all of you, I'm getting feedback to why appraisals aren't getting done. And a lot of it is that the minimum rated time now went from 120 days to 90 days. So if you have new hires, you have folks on probation trial period, they wouldn't be receiving an appraisal. If they do, it's nothing more than just feedback for them. And it is a pass or fail. It really is. And the conversion, let me give you a little bit of, who here has not gone into DP MAP and either done their used to be called self-assessment. You give it employee feedback. No one, everyone here, please tell me, has gone into DP MAP. Okay, if you haven't, you need to get in there, either as a supervisor through My Workplace or as an employee through My Biz. And go ahead and get in there and look at your plan and provide your employee feedback, formerly known as self-assessment, and get that appraisal done. But while you're in there, you're going to gain some insight on what it looks like now. It looks similar, but it is different. It is not PAA at all. Some of the changes are per the DODI, and some are just system. The DOD took PAA because they liked it. They modified it. It's a little bit more intuitive than PAA was. It talks to you a lot more. It warns you about a lot of things as a supervisor. When you first log in as a supervisor, what's the first thing that pops up? Your responsibilities as a supervisor. Merit placement, EEO, do the right thing, be a good supervisor. I made that up, but that's pretty much what it looks like. Yes. And then it lets you into DP MAP, your home screen where you can see all of your employees. Okay? But one of the things that you need to know is while you can't weight the standards and elements, formerly known as job objectives, after you do an appraisal and you actually score 1, 3, or 5 on each of the job performance elements and standards, you still get a raw score. 4 point whatever, 3 point whatever, you still get a raw score. The way the system converts it to a whole number is very different than it used to be. A 2.9 or below, that appraisal is now a 1. 3.0 to 4.2, you are a 3. There's nothing wrong with that. You are a 3. 4.3 to a 5, the appraisal is a 5. And that is right there in the DODI. And if your appraisal is done and you go in and want to view your completed appraisals, that conversion chart is at the very, very bottom of the actual appraisal. It's on there. It's not a secret. It's part of the appraisal system. It's part of the final documents that get generated. So with that conversion being so vastly different with the new scoring, we now had to go back to the drawing board, and we're working on developing a new incentive program to accommodate those scores. Gone are the days where you had to have a 4 to even be eligible. 3.0 makes you eligible for an incentive. What type of incentive we're still working on, and then we have to present it to ACT. So, but be advised that it's going to be different than what you were used to with PAA. Okay? But thank you for that. I was hoping somebody would ask an appraisal question. You said you got some more.
No, I'm good. You answered it. Perfect.
Is there a backstory on why they took out basically the 2s and 4s? Why they went to a 1,
The
3?
two, the scoring, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 was specific to National Guard Bureau, because it used to be that it was a free for all, because Big Army, they're still doing paper, and then doing some the Navy was completely different. It was a wild west out there, but PAA and that scoring was developed by National Guard Bureau, and only the 54 were using that. DOD then reined everybody in and said, you will do it this way, and this is what it's going to look like. So basically, they took PAA and took out the parts they didn't like and changed it to their liking.
Something changed in DODI, it's possible.
Mhm. They use words like critical elements and weights and all that, but DP map, everything's a critical element, and there are no weights. Weird thing, the weights are not gone out of the system, but they're grayed out. You can't add or change any weights. Everything is just evenly distributed. Yep. Yep. It's good discussion. This is why we're here. This is what Mr. Niles and Colonel Munch envisioned, so that we can get out here and you can, dispel the I heards and they says. So if you have any questions at all,
So,
please.
this is going back to the military deposit.
Okay. All right.
So you're aware of the law enforcement leave that's being reconstituted back, correct? Going back, changing KG to LL. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm familiar with law enforcement leave, not only because it falls into my area, but because I spent many years in the JEOC and had to make sure that was in the all hazards plan. But if you're taking corrective action for people that have been deemed eligible that maybe weren't before, we can talk about that offline, because I'm not familiar with what's going on. So you'd have to give me the backstory before
Okay.
I could zing any answers out.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a general question, but it falls in
Well,
line
law
with that
enforcement
category.
leave, LL, the law calls it the CFR, and OPM and everyone else calls it the additional 22 days of military leave, which just, the first time somebody hears that, they automatically assume they've got 22 days of additional LM that they can go ahead and use in ATAPs, and that's not the case.
Correct.
This is a program that civilian employers have had for years that only came online with us, 2003? About that time? And then it's evolved. So law enforcement leave back in the day was you were called to state active duty. You were called to state active duty, which meant that you were now in a KA status or however you were coded back then, which meant no technician paid came in, but at some point, and I mean that in the nicest possible way to the Office of Administration that's downstairs in our building, you would get a check in the mail from the state, right? Well, what was the minimum payment per day back then when it first came online? It's gone up to, I think, $100 a day, but it was at $75. So people were taking a loss financially when they got called to state active duty. Well, we're guard, that's why we're here. You know, back then, that was why we were here. It was the only game in town. And so getting called to state active duty really took a, you know, it was a financial burden for a lot of service members. So what you were able to do was, on time and attendance, keep your technician pay going for up to 22 additional days per calendar year. Right? I know a lot of you used it, very familiar with it. So what they would do is they would code you LL. That's the time and attendance code. It hasn't changed. You're longer than me, so okay. So it's always been LL. Your technician pay would roll in like it normally would, and then at some point you would get that check from the state active duty time, right? State active duty. But then around 6 to 8 months later, your technician pay would be reduced by the amount that you got paid by the state. And that avoided any dual compensation, because you can't be in both at the same time in active status. Does that make sense to everybody? Civilian employers have been assisting with their service members getting called as, you know, AT or things like that for years, but it's an offset provision. It is not what a lot of people call, you know, double dipping. It is not. When you use law enforcement leave, it is your right. Go use it, but be mindful of dual compensation, because at some point, what you got paid by the state will be taken away from you on the federal side. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
And thank you for that, because that cleared some things, but that wasn't even remotely what I was getting at.
You're welcome. And that's just state active duty. Now, there's another provision now that came along. Maybe that's the 2003 I'm thinking of. It's been a while. But then approved contingencies was added to the eligibility. So when you get called to military duty, OCONUS, you know, Iraq, Afghanistan, certain other places that are, again, now we're at inherent resolve. Back then it was Iraqi freedom and all that. You also could use the LL. It's used a little differently. It's an after the fact. You sit with your finance folks and they work out what your offset would be. I don't fully understand all of that, because that actually, all of that resides in your FM.
Right, so that's basically what I'm getting at. But LL would count as credible service towards retirement, correct?
It's a paid leave status, yes. Because
So
when
if
you
made a
use
military
LL,
deposit on that, and you go back and change it.
well, that's when you have to talk to the military deposit folks to talk about how DFAS views how you remain in a pay status, not just for LL, but annual leave, mill leave, and anything like that. That's what they're for. Good deal. But when you select LL, it's a paid leave status. All normal deductions come out, correct?
I don't know, I've never used it.
Pretty sure they do. Yep.
I think, speaking for me, I only used it after the fact, when we kind of found out about how it was utilized and how it was geared in.
Because you accrue annual leave, sick leave, all that. It's looked at like regular paid leave. Oh, trip down memory lane on the history of LL, law enforcement leave. They just gave it a new name and evolved it a little bit and added contingency orders to the program.
I'm asking, yeah.
But yeah, a lot of that resides in FM. The instructions on how your finance folks are to compute what's called your military technician rate and your military daily rate and your technician daily rate, all of that was issued by DFAS to your finance folks. We didn't talk about the eligibility. We give you the policy for it. We advise when JEOC is about to stand up, you know, and we bring the information for mobilization briefings, but ultimately the feedback would be with your FM on what it actually looks like. Okay? Good deal. Anything else?
In transitions for the various things of, say, AGR technician, kind of 5, AGR kind of 5, in a perfectly timed, well-done transition, they're just going to go, is it anticipated that there's a possibility of a break in medical coverage? Or
actual timeline so I can help you, I can give a good
It
answer.
might be a sideline, going type AGR, Title V.
Okay, so here's how I'm gonna approach this one. You have a airman or an employee that's got a whole lot of coals in the fire, maybe toying with the idea of going air AGR with this whole alignment thing. But then maybe a Title V jobs come available, maybe not necessarily with this agency, but any agency, right? Will there be a negative impact to benefits? In a perfect world, I'm gonna tell you no, because a transition, whether it be a transfer in or out, a conversion in place, Title 32 to 5, your health benefits are top loaded because we already gave that information or have that information at the ready. So when we do the Title V conversion actions, I don't know how many we've done here, but we've done a lot of them, and they are actually initiated with the staffing section and then passed on to my section to kind of polish up, and then to actually generate the SF50. We top load from top to bottom, health benefits, tenure, FEGLI, and anything credible service, be it military, we double check your service computation dates. We do all of that, top to bottom, before we actually push the button and generate the SF50. So in a perfect world, the answer would be no, because we provide, and when you transition out to another agency, the staffing section with the information system section provides all of your benefit and pay information to that gaining agency. If you're going to convert in place, we have that information already because we are your HR. We have the visibility on your benefits, and we make sure that they get top loaded in the action so that they come along with you and it's seamless to you. The only time that we ever have any kind of interruption or challenges is if you go to another agency or you come to us from another agency and you have things like the federal, the supplement, the FedBIP, the dental and eye insurance, and you have a TSP loan. That requires a little bit more communication between the HR and yourselves, but other than that, it's pretty seamless. Yep. In a perfect world. And you add in there some apps in US, and you add in there all the other things, that's okay, because it's all housed together. Any other questions? This is a good discussion. Can be mindful of time, but I think we're good.
USARA rates, 5 years.
It's 5-year cumulative,
Cumulative.
and there are exceptions.
Can you go over that?
Global war and terrorism, 13223, and anything that your A1, NGB A1, actually, your NGB A1 provides a memo every year of all of the authorities that you can get put on orders for, call to duty on, that are exempt. I didn't bring that with me, but it's something that your A1 down in Andrews provides to us every year.
Is there a place I can go look that shows?
I don't know that we hung that. That was internal to us to make sure that we capture the right remarks on your SF50, but we can most certainly, Jackie, can you make a note of that NGBA 1 exception letter? And we can go ahead and hang that on GKO for you.
Is there a place I can go look as an individual that shows me how much time of USARA rights I have remaining?
Well, that could be a challenge because it is actually monitored internally for us, but it's typically for folks that have been gone for 5 years. On the air side, a lot of you have gone on MPA orders at the beginning of, post 9/11, and we're exempt for going well beyond the 5 years. And then A1 revised the memo. And so we keep an eye on those folks. As far as cumulative, you'd have to take a look at all of your SF50s. If you're exempt, it would be a remark on your SF50s. You have to kind of piece those together. But if you think that you're creeping up on a 5-year, we can go ahead and take a look at that for you. Yep.
That's what the 5
A
years.
lot of the orders that you all have been on since post 9/11 have been exempt. A lot of them. But we typically primarily are focused on AGRs. There are MPA orders out there that are not linked to a contingency. And when A1 had revised their memo on what was considered exempt and actually removed a lot of the authorities, we had to go back to the drawing board and do a lot of computations. But the result of those where people were offered the ability to restore and had elected not to and had been separated, or they haven't reached their 5 years yet. Or, it's a lot. There's a lot of variables. A lot of variables. so many different types of orders. And there's an air way and there's an army way. You know, so we just have to be very careful to get it right. What time is it? How are we going for? I think we have about 20 minutes or so based on the calendar of the schedule. But if there's, you know, we'll hang around again. Let me close this with the employee relations section will be upstairs. I know that there were some sign-in sheets. Major Dove did print those off and we distributed